Hello everybody, Disciple here with Overwatch Curios. Now, everyone has their likes and dislikes. In Overwatch, players are more than happy to talk about their favorite hero, or map, or game mode. But on the flip side of that coin, there's an even louder opinion about what a player hates the most. Now, obviously on our YouTube channel, we've never seen hate before, but I have heard that there is some hate in the community, especially for someone's least favorite hero to play as or against. Some can't stand the playstyles, others can't stand going toe-to-toe. Some players hate certain heroes because of their lack of team synergy, and some simply don't like the way a hero looks and feels, or maybe don't like the type of player that typically mans them. Now today, let's take a look at 5 of the most hated heroes in Overwatch. Whether it's playing with or against them, these are the heroes that players just aren't huge fans of. Although there are certainly loads of players who do play them, these are the heroes that you hear the most complaints about either in a match or on social media and forums. Anyway, let's get into it. Now, snipers have always been high on the list of hated class archetypes in shooters since the beginning. It can be massively frustrating to just be running along, fragging away when you get popped out of nowhere by a projectile you didn't even see coming. So it's no real surprise that Hanzo Shimado makes it on the list, because I know that you guys would riot if he wasn't on here. Unlike your standard cookie cutter sniper, Hanzo actually has a uniquely annoying kit all on his own that really adds that extra bit of rage-inducing gameplay that sets players off all across the world. First and foremost, his arrows do massive damage when they connect. That makes sense, as snipers are meant to do that level of damage to reward their skills of shooting from afar. However, Hanzo has all sorts of arrows stuffed into that quiver of his, which makes him a bit more frustrating to deal with than your average sniper. Sonic Arrow removes the element of surprise and cover away from the target entirely and puts it very comfortably into Hanzo's hands. He simply has to pop it somewhere in your general direction to know exactly where you are, which is priceless information for a sniper. So it's pretty tough to hide from him. Cover is further reduced in usefulness when he fires a scatter arrow at your feet or banks it around a corner. With some practice, the Hanzo player can get really good at hitting you with the angled arrows, and it doesn't take a lot of skill to get to that point. Now, these special arrow shots tied in with his already powerful standard fire makes for an extremely dangerous gameplay from pretty much any distance and most angles as well. While this is the root cause of most of the aggression toward Hanzo and going up against him, there's also a couple of other factors that add icing onto the shit cake. His mobility is also a huge factor in the rage-inducing as well. He can climb walls and grapple up to high ledges, giving him a fantastic vantage point or escape route, as well as the ability to easily flank a team who's entrenched or otherwise hard to reach. Many heroes have mobility options, but only a handful have the verticality that it takes to get up and take down a Hanzo who's perched or on the run before he can take them down in turn. And of course, there's Dragon Strike. Using his other abilities at the right time will enable the Hanzo player to kill you and your team without defense, through walls, and with little to no warning. If there's even the slightest bit of synergy between other heroes on Hanzo's team, he can pair up with the likes of Zarya or Reinhardt and use his team-wiping ultimate with their ultimates to guarantee the kills with very little skill required. But despite how powerful his kit might be, everyone knows that it's only that way when you're facing up against him, since a Hanzo on your team seems to have all of his arrows magnetically attracted to the ground and walls in ways that don't even seem physically possible. Next, Mei is an interesting hero in several different ways, each one of them inducing anger and frustration from anyone who has to go up against it. Now, the main issue with Mei is her control. She's defensive in nature, which makes her hard to counter, and she can control her space in the battlefield in so many different ways that block or hinder enemy movement and stop players dead in their tracks. Hell, even allies in the Mei player themselves hate on Mei more often than not because of that damn wall. Of course, the obvious reason players hate going up against a Mei is her ability to freeze them in place. You're rendered helpless after a few seconds in her blaster's primary fire, and if you have lower health, a shot or two from her secondary fire ends things very quickly, since it is a headshot that deals massive damage with absolutely no aim. Her alt fire is even deadly from a distance, and Mei players that practice her aiming can snipe you from afar, making her lethal at just about any range, and she used to be known as Mei Cree because of how well she could do it from a distance. Mei also has some amazing defensive cooldowns that make her incredibly hard to deal with, even in 2v1 or 3v1 scenarios. Her Ice Wall can hinder attackers or keep her alive, and even wall off retreating enemies to secure the kill. A cheeky Mei can even use Ice Wall to annoy her own teammates by blocking their path. One notable example is Mei blocking off the exit of a spawn room while allies sit there in disgust as they try to shoot their way out or find another exit. Now, of course, it's frustrating when Mei does this to the enemy team, but against her own teammates, it's extra bad. And then there's the Cryo Freeze ability. At any time, Mei can just use this cooldown to place herself in a giant slab of ice, which makes her completely immune to damage and heals her over time. Fans of World of Warcraft will probably recognize the ability as it closely resembles a mage's ice block, which has very similar properties. Now, of course, Mei needs defensive cooldowns, since she also needs to be right in the thick of combat to really be effective, and she would be a sitting duck otherwise. But what's really so rage-inducing about it is not only the full self-heal that Cryo Freeze gives you, but also the fact that you can contest points while invulnerable, and there's nothing the enemy team can do, and it can often give you a few key seconds while your team respawns and gets back to the point, and many times Mei has just been able to solo defend because of it. However, despite all of this, Mei is an adorably kind-hearted character in the Overwatch lore and actually has a smile on her face pretty much all the time as she fires an icicle through your eye socket, making her just that much more obnoxious when she does trap you. There's even a huge amount of memes and comics based around the adorable and deadly combo that Mei offers, and you should definitely take a look at it. All in all, the combo of cute, hard to kill, and remarkably lethal easily makes Mei one of the most hated heroes on both sides of the fence. So it's probably no surprise that both Shimada brothers made the list. Both have similar overall traits and abilities that can be super annoying to deal with. Genji, however, takes the lead in obnoxiousness over his brother for a few key reasons. One of the primary reasons enemies and allies of Ganja complain about the cybernetic ninja is his insane mobility. His mobility options are threefold, and all of them make him insanely hard to hit, while also synergizing perfectly in with his kit and making him incredibly deadly as well. Next come the deflects. Anything that's a projectile can be deflected by Gengar using this ability, and if you've ever run into one that knows the slightest thing about how to press a button at the right time, you've undoubtedly been killed by your own bullets or explosives. Now that's just about as frustrating as it gets. You think you have him, only to have your own ammo hit you in the face, killing you, or even worse, your teammates. Now, it was your own fault, but you still blame the Genki. Even ultimates aren't safe. A great way to get your team wiped is to play Zarya, try and Graviton Surge the enemy team, and of course have it deflected right back into you, wiping yourselves and making you feel incredibly silly. Now, top off that banana split of bullcrap that allows Greninja to one or two shot pretty much anyone while remaining just as mobile as he was before, and you can see how he induces rage better than just about anyone else on the Overwatch roster. Of course, the list wouldn't be complete without everyone's favorite Omnic killing machine, Bastion. He's the bane of Bronze League and simply eats new players alive, and back in the beta, so many countless threads were created trying to get him removed from the game. This immense wave of Bastion hate that started strong but still hasn't died out is first and foremost based on his rate of fire and damage. Although it has been changed several times, Bastion just does an absurd amount of damage, and anyone caught in the open gets mowed down instantly. He's also great at dealing with aerial threats like Pharah and divas that don't know how to use their defense matrix properly, since he'll just shoot them out of the air like a couple of clay pigeons. Now, with the recent changes to Bastion, his recon form is a lot stronger and it makes him more mobile and survivable, but his weakness is, of course, his lower health pool and the weak spot on his backside, which many players seem still not know about. Bastion's very reliant on his own team and their ability to cover and distract for him, as well as the Bastion's players' ability to adapt, but overall it does seem like he is very heavily rewarding for a very slight amount of skill. Now, Torbjorn Lindholm is the hero that everyone loves to hate, and so he comes out at number 1 on our list. In shooters, classes that drop buildables are usually either completely useless or completely overpowered. Torbjorn, however, has been adjusted pretty well to fit into the overall balance of the Overwatch roster. He was of course completely overpowered on console, and many players also thought he was OP at the start of the PC beta, and it doesn't stop players from hating on him even if he's quite a bit weaker than a lot of other heroes in the roster. Just like Bastion, his turret has a decent rate of fire and great damage, and the auto acquire and the fact that the Torbjorn player doesn't need to aim for all of his damage makes him a bit of a go-to for the lower skilled players. It can be very annoying if the turret's placed in a well-fortified spot, especially if Torbjorn's guarding it or it's behind some other sort of shield that makes it tricky to get to. Now, it's especially annoying on consoles since the reaction time on a controller is much lower than that of a mouse, and so it does seem like the turret just gets on you a little bit too quickly and shoots you a little bit too accurately. The turret, however, is only half of Torbjorn's arsenal since he has so much damage at both a range and up close. His primary fire has no fall off, and his right click can two-shot a Roadhog if you're able to get enough headshots in. Some advanced players can actually use the level 1 turrets to great success by simply dropping one in a spot, ignoring it, using it as a distraction and extra boost of damage, and then dropping another one as the fight continues to move around. The mobility and damage of Torbjorn, plus the high damage of his turret, and his ability to support himself and his team makes him incredibly annoying to deal with, especially for new players that aren't very adaptable and aren't exactly sure how to handle these two threats from the same player. Oh, and his ultimate boosts every single thing in his kit and makes him incredibly powerful for a short period of time, which, like Bastion and Genji, can be very frustrating once you're in the moment. Anyway, those are our top 5 most hated heroes in Overwatch. I want to know what you guys thought about this list, and I'm sure there are some heroes that you guys hate that didn't make it on, but I'm sure that everyone that was on this list is definitely somewhere in your guys' top 5, or you're a filthy Mei player. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. You're seriously the greatest, and I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Peace.